Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Anton, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Recently, we've had a patch. In this patch, we've had quite a lot of content. Not a new full-on set, so not a lot of new cards. I believe we have 10 new cards alongside some balance changes, buffs, and nerfs. Every time we get these big meta shakeups, I like to put out one of these videos where I talk about some decks that are using some of the new or changed cards that I think have a lot of potential behind them. Before we talk about the decks, first off, I have 8 of them, so quite a bit of them. But I would like to say this: I think every single deck here has potential behind it. I think there is something with each deck here. I think with some fine tuning, each and every single one of these decks has a potential to get to Masters. In their current form, maybe not. It is still early in the new patch. And of course, as a meta starts to stabilize, we can change cards in the decks that I'm going to be showing for certain tech cards. Things like Aloof Travelers, more life gain, more aggressiveness, more greed, etc., etc. But I think if you're just a little overwhelmed from all of the new stuff, all of the changes, and you just want to play something, this is the video for you. So let's go and start looking at the decks. First off, what do we have? We got a classic here. Go hard. Just your classic Shadow Isles PNZ go hard. So we got our TFs, we got our Elises, and we got our go hards. 2 new cards in this deck. First off, Ceaseless Sentry. Not much to talk about with this card here. It's basically just Avarosan Sentry in Shadow Isles. I feel like most people who have played this game at a decent level, not even a high level, but a competent level, know Avarosan Sentry is a good card in a bad region. Freljord is kind of a meh kind of region. And so Avarosan Sentry in Shadow Isles is just really good. Helps smooth out your early game curve. Of course, like cycling helps activate Slay synergies, wanting to die synergies, things like Glimpse, of course. Our other card in here, Mischievous Mirai. Really, really big fan of this card. 5 mana, 3/4. When you play a spell, summon a Powder Keg. Combining it with things like Go Hard, Make It Rain, TF's red card. Really, really powerful. And we got one of Commander Ladros as a little extra top end. Like I was saying, though, this deck, like all of these decks, is still a work in progress. I do think a 1 or even 2 catalogs could be a thing in this deck. Definitely has some potential. It really just depends on how greedy you want to be. But yeah, go hard with Mischievous Mirai seems solid. Go hard itself, though, it kind of like ebbs and flows depending on how good go hard is as a card. So you'll have to consider that when you decide whether or not to play this. Now our next deck. What do we got next here? We got also a kind of a classic deck, not really as classic as Go Hard, but Spiders. If you don't know, because either you just forgot because it wasn't really a deck for that long and it's been a while, Iceborne Legacy Spiders was a deck for a while. You would have the 1/1 Spiders, the Spiderlings, and you would play Iceborne Legacy to make all of your Spiderlings 3/3s. Or we'll just give them +2/+2. And then they nerfed Iceborne Legacy to 6 mana. It used to be 5 mana, nerfed it to 6. More not because of the Spirelings, but more because of the elusive Poro. Now, why are we playing this card? Or why are we playing this deck? Well, we got a couple of things here. First off, the new ramp spell, Winter's Touch, is really, really good. Being able to basically play a 2-drop and still ramp on 3 if you banked mana on 1 is really nice. So we can skip turn 1, play Elise on 2, and ramp on 3. That's a huge, huge change for decks that would like to play ramp. The other change, not a new card, but Wraith of Echoes has been buffed. It is now 5 mana instead of 6 mana. Round end, for each ally that died this round, grant all allied copies of it everywhere, +1/+1, 5 mana, 2/5. Obviously, the card we want to be buffing is the Spiderlings from Elise, from our Aristocrat, from our Brood Awakenings, Crawling Sensations, etc., etc. And of course, we're in Freljord, we're playing a lot of units. we're playing some Spirits Unleashed. Spirits Unleashed is just great. Still working on this deck as well. Not sure how many Buried in Ice and If That Stairs I want in the deck right now. This is definitely, this 2-card combo here is definitely a combo that's gonna have to see how the meta shapes up and basically how many counter spells are in the meta. Basically, do I want to play Buried in Ice if like Deny and Rite of Negation and Signpost is popular? As for the rest of the deck, again, not sure how many Brood Awakenings I want as well. Only one right now. I started at 3 and I went down to 1. Not sure if I want Trundle either. I just think Trundle is really good because he's just really good. 5 mana, 4/6 regen, and he himself turns into a nice win con. But yeah, I like the deck. Also like the Go Hard deck. I'm considering adding a one of Commander Ladros. Probably don't need him, but you could consider doing it. Now our next deck. What do we have for our next deck? We got a Greed pile here. This is something I've thrown together. I threw this together really quick on stream. Feels like it might be a little too greedy. I'm still working on it, but I do honestly think there is something here behind Zoe Aphelios. So, like I've said, this is purely greed. Of course, we could go greedier, but we don't want to get too greedy. Got a couple of the new cards here. Generous Gem Crafter, 3 mana, 2/3. When you cast or when you play a spell, grant a random ally in hand +1/+1. And Banana Blaster, 4 mana, 2/2. When you play it, it's a skill. Deal damage equal to its power to a unit. So the idea is we are using Gem Crafter to buff Banana Blaster and our champions. We also are a Shellfolk deck because our opponent wants to kill our champions because Zoe and Aphelios are really, really scary. And they want to probably kill Gem Crafter because it'll give a lot of value if it sits around. That means there's less removal out there for our Shellfolk. Plus, Shellfolk also holds the Gem Crafter buffs fairly well. Just one buff to Shellfolk gets it out of so much removal. Basically, Ravenous Flock. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about this deck. I think it is really good. I'm just trying to like balance the amount of greed, the amount of removal, etc., etc. For example, this one of Celestial Trifecta, I really just added it because I wanted another win con. Right now, I believe I've taken it out for Sunburst. I think I have 2 Sunbursts in my current build. Also, not sure, do I want Guiding Touch? Do I want Pale Cascades, etc., etc.? But I really like this pile. Definitely something I'm still working on, though. Maybe I should consider adding in Fangs as well. Fangs would be something that holds Gem Crafter buffs really well, too. But I really like this deck. I just like Banana Blaster. Banana Blaster is such a cool card. I love these cards I love units that act as removal as well. And, you know, I also just love Shellfolk. Next up, what do we have next? Elites. I'm going to be honest with you, not a big Elite player, but I feel like I'm obligated to include Elites in this list of decks because Elites got quite a few things. Pretty much only one new card, really. That's Blocking Badger Bear. Elites is weird right now. I've had a lot of people tell me, Elites is so good, or yeah, it's great, trust me. Really good deck, and I'm just like, I play against Elites. I've played against Elites so much, and I've never been impressed. Now, with that said, though, I do think Elites are a little more complex to play than most people give it credit for. I feel like a lot of people just call out Elites and say Elites are like, yeah, it's that deck where you just slam unit, play unit, play unit, play unit, play unit, and just keep playing units on curve. And yes, it is kind of like that, at least in the early game. But I think where the skill for Elites gets shown and is actually closing out the game. And to that effect, that's why we are playing Targon as our secondary region, our splash region, whatever you want to call it. So with Targon, we get quite a few win cons now. We have Kale herself, a couple of Zelanis, so that means we're only playing 4, since we're playing 2 of each, 4 non-Demacia cards. So our Bannerman should still almost always hit. And our other win con is 2 Champion Strikes. Of course, just going really, really wide, really fast with our units is in win con. You can consider adding in Golden Aegis too. I'm not a fan of Golden Aegis anymore ever since it went up to 5 mana. I think Champion Strength is just better. But yeah, blocking Badger Bear is the new card. 3 mana 4/4, elite. I can block units with elusive. Really, we're just playing this because it's a 3 mana 4/4 with the elite tag. Turn 1, Ram Hound. Turn 2, Battlesmith. Turn 3, Badger Bear. Pretty solid curve. 3 mana 5/5 is pretty good. Of course, Vanguard Squire is pretty solid too. So you could go like turn 1 Ram Hound, turn 2 like Ram Hound, turn 3 Badger Bear, and then drop a couple of Vanguard Squires on 3, and then drop a Bannerman on 4. If that sounds like something you are interested in, go for it. Also the spells are basic. This is a very basic spell suite, just 2 Ranger Resolve, 2 Sharp Sight, 2 Single Combat. This right here, your spells, is where you would modify the deck, in my opinion, depending on how the meta shapes up. Like, do you need more basically protection from pings? Do you need faster rallies than Champion Strength? There are a few cards in here in the few units in the deck you can change around as well. Like, do you want more Vanguard Redeemers? More or less Vanguard Sergeants, etc., etc. But pretty much the rest of the deck is set in stone, at least in the Demacia side of the deck. But yeah, Elites is fine. Elites can get to Masters. I wouldn't recommend it if you're looking for the best deck ever, but it's a pretty solid deck. You could also consider J4. Like, we are only playing 5 champions. You could consider adding in J4 as the 6th champion here as a one-of. He is a pretty solid card, and I believe he is also an elite. Next deck we got here, though. What do we have next? We got Jace Lux. Speaking of Demacia, not much to talk about here with this deck, so we're probably going to be going through this really quickly. Jace Lux has always been a solid deck. Kind of gets overshadowed by Jace Heimer, because Shadow Isles has just been really, really good for the past few sets, few months, few patches, whatever you want to call it. Things like Quietus being printed, Vengeance just being really good, Vile Feast always just being solid, etc., etc. And the Pharaoh's Financier pool in Shadow Isles is just so much better than the Pharaoh's Financier pulls from Demacia. So why am I recommending Jace Lux now? A couple of reasons. One, Albus Ferris got buffed a while ago, so all the Jace decks got a lot more powerful, which is why you're probably seeing more Jace Heimer, because it's really good. But more importantly, Formula. Formula is the 6 mana burst spell. Draw 2 cards, refill your spell mana. This card is so good. I've seen a lot of people mistakenly claim Jace Lux is a control deck. Same with Jace Heimer. They're not really control decks. Both of these decks are kind of, in my opinion, mid-range decks that can play the control role in certain matchups, like against other mid-range decks and against aggro decks. But you really need to have a good grasp on your deck and your opponent's deck and decide whether you want to be aggressive or if you want to be more control-y. Jace Lux has always leaned a little more mid-rangey, in my opinion, compared to, say, Jace Heimer, because, you know, Heimerdinger is really good at grinding. And so therefore, Formula gives us a lot more late game gas, and it just synergizes so well with so many of our cards. Getting doubled up by Jace, turning into basically a 6 mana draw 4, and of course it refills your spell mana, so it's kind of like a 3 mana draw 4. Getting 1 final spark if you have a Lux, even 2 if you have both Lux and Jace. If you have both Lux and Jace on the field with this deck, you're probably winning in all honesty already. Increasing your Albus Ferris's damage by 1 as well. Really, really good card. Really buffs up all these Jace decks, and Lux just loves it as well. So if you like Jace, if you like Lux, take this deck out for a spin on the ladder. Also, really good pull from Pharaoh's Financier. Next up, we got a deck that I really like. I like Mischievous Mirai. I really like this card. I think it's a pretty cool card. So we got another one. We also have another Gemcrafter deck here. Zoe TF Mischievous Mirai, I guess is how you would describe this. I'm still working on this deck, not really sure about it though, but I really, really like the idea of using Mischievous Mirai to try and buff Zoe, TF, or a Burblefish. Like, those are the 3 buff targets here. Coral Creatures is doing its best to try and buy us some time. Mischievous Mirai doesn't mind getting some of the buffs either because it just makes it more resilient to removal. But really, it's just Zoe, TF, and Burblefish. Of course, we want to get early Zoes out there as well to get some super cool star charts if we think our opponent can't remove her early. But we are also playing things like Pale Cascade. You might remember a deck kind of similar to this where we're trying to buff our things like Zoe and TF, or just TF. Bard TF was a thing for a bit when Bard first came out. There were so many different Bard decks because Bard was just busted. And basically giving lots of stat buffs to TF is really good because it makes him harder to remove. And if he's harder to remove, that means it's harder. You get more turns with TF on the field, giving you a higher chance for him to level up. And as we should all know by now with how long TF's been in the game, a leveled up TF can be game winning. So, of course, we've got our draw spells in the form of Eye of Nagakaburos, but that's it. Sure, we have some cycling spells like Pale Cascade and Guiding Touch, but we don't really have other ways to draw. I guess you could say pick a card, TF's pick a card, and maybe Space Doggo from Zoe's star chart, but that's really it. Playing a couple of Divine Judgments. I think Divine Judgment's just really, really good in this deck because one, helps keep TF safe from like a Vengeance or something. If we have like a really big TF that's like a, I'd say like a 6/6. Like he got 4 buffs from Gemcaster. Our opponent most likely has to use a big hard removal spell like a Disintegrate or a Vengeance, and then we play Divine Judgment and protect him and then level him up, and our opponent can't win because they use their big removal spell on him. Also good at helping keep Zoe alive, our Burblefish alive. Basically our unit that got all those Gemcaster or Gemcrafter buffs. You can also try and be a little cute and Divine Judgment the powder kegs. That's really cute. Not really a thing I would recommend doing, but you know, sometimes you'll do it. Sometimes you'll play like, you'll have like 4 or 5 powder kegs, and then you'll play Divine Judgment on the powder keg and just go off with warning shots and parlays. Again, wouldn't recommend it, but thanks to Divine Judgment in this deck, I feel like there are a lot of you can push out a lot of burn damage, a surprisingly high amount of burn damage. I'd recommend being a little careful though. We could get run over here. If you think you're gonna get run over, I'd say consider adding in Make It Rain. I'm not a big fan of Make It Rain in the current meta with how it's shaping up to be, but you could consider adding it. And our next deck. I really like this next deck here. Evelyn Viego. So why Evelyn Viego? Evelyn got quite a big buff. She herself didn't get buffed, but some of her followers got buffed. Domination is now a 2/2 instead of a 2/1. We're not playing Domination in this deck. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. But the more important one, Steam. Steam basically got reworked. He is now a 4-mana 3/3, still has Scout, and still summons a random Husk when you summon him. But now when you summon a 1-cost ally, grant the strongest enemy vulnerable. Basically turning all of your 1-drops into hired guns, giving them the hired gun ability. So that's all of your Husks, all of your other 1-drops you're playing as well. Evelyn Viego was already a deck, and it got nerfed because, well, quite a few of the cards in the deck got nerfed. Mostly just Hate Spike. Hate Spike initially was I believe it was a 2-mana deal 2, and then it went down to 1 mana, and then they put it back to 2 mana, and then they made it 2-mana deal 3, I believe. They've been messing around with Hate Spike a lot. And also they made Viego 6 mana when he initially was 5 mana. But Steam, after playing with Steam, this ability is crazy good. I'm still working on the unit base here and even the spells. If Atrocity hadn't been nerfed and Atrocity was still fast speed, I would be playing Atrocity first off. And I would honestly think this would be a very powerful, like, top tier meta deck. Without Atrocity, yeah, the games are a little bit tougher to win. But I think if we can stick a Steam on the board and not have and just win the game from that. Of course, we've got other things in this deck too. Neverglade Collector gives us a little bit of healing. I've had games where I just win with Neverglade Collector because of the draining is really good. As I was mentioning earlier, no domination in this deck because I don't think domination is good for this deck. I don't think really we're benefiting from the buff. I would much rather play Vora if I wanted to play that, but I've had a lot of people ask me, like, why don't you want domination? Doesn't it buff the encroaching miss? Sure. Like, is that really worth it, though? To give +1/+0 to encroaching miss? Like, yeah, I guess it helps level Viego faster, but I'm not really into that. If anything, I guess it'd be nice that it buffs your husks instead. We're also playing a little bit of a hollowed suite in this deck, too. Boisterous House. Boisterous House is mostly here because it helps activate Steam, his ability again. And I think the hollowed hollowed triggers are really good for this deck. Between Steam and Scouts, works really good with hollowed. And some of the husk keywords like Overwhelm, Elusive, Fearsome, Quick Attack also work really well with hollowed. I'm also trying out a one-of Opulent Foyer in this deck. It's summons the Ghastly Band when you summon it or you gain the attack token. I really like Opulent Foyer for two reasons in this deck. One, the Ghastly Band is a one-drop, so it activates Steam, and it gives you more hollowed triggers. I would only play one, though. Hollowed's always had the problem of board space, and I think if you have two Opulent Foyers, you're going to just run out of board space too much. Sure, it does make it a little inconsistent to draw, but it's fine. It's not real. It's really just a it's not a card you need, if that makes sense. If you don't draw it, whatever. If you draw it, great, and you probably do a lot. So yeah, really loving this deck. Been having a lot of fun with it. Still working on some of the spells and some of the units, though. Considering adding in Vora, and I want to try in Domination. Still not sure about how many Hydravines to play. I'm playing 3 at the moment. I might go down to 2. Also not sure about the removal suite. Currently a very basic removal suite in my opinion. 3 Hate Spike, 3 Black Spear, 2 Vengeance, 1 Tellstones. I'm trying out the Tellstones over the 3rd Vengeance. I think this one of Tellstones is really, really good. I think every single spell from the Shadow Isles Tellstone is really good here. Mark just to let things live. I've definitely used Mark to facilitate good trades. Crumble is just, we have so much fodder. Crumble's just great. And Spirit Journey's not that bad in helping keep Viego, Evelyn, Steam, or Hydravine alive. So yeah, feels very powerful from what I've played of this deck, so go and try it out if you like Evelyn. And our last deck, probably the deck I've played the most, it's a Karma deck. You knew it was a Karma deck. If you know me, you know what I like. I like Karma. Master Yi Karma Freljord. Playing the new Ionia card, Serene Skysinger. 7 mana, 3/6, lifesteal. When I'm summoned, reduce the cost of spells in your deck by half, rounded up. I threw this deck together on stream really quick, but I haven't really changed it since I built it because there's not much, in my opinion, I would want to change at the moment. No avalanches, no blighted ravines. I've had people ask me why none of that. And my reasoning is there aren't that many decks that are going wide, and the few that are still trying to go wide aren't even weak to those kind of cards. So that's why I don't want them. Plus, I don't want to wipe my own stuff. Playing Disciple of Doran and Greenglade Lookout as well. Greenglade Lookout just to try and discount Serene Skysinger. Even if we don't discount Skysinger, discounting Karma is pretty solid too. Disciple of Doran is just great because it helps us discount our other spells, and it helps activate Flow for Deep Meditation. If the meta becomes more aggressive, we could switch to Eye of the Dragons, Tasty Fey Folks, etc., etc. But yeah, big fan of this deck. Basically, you just play this kind of like a Feel the Rush deck. You just ramp, and then you play a ramp target, and then you play another ramp target. And the ramp target in this case is Serene Skysinger. You can consider adding in Buried in Ice and It That Stares. I'm not a fan of either of those cards right now. Depending on how the meta shapes up, I might like It That Stares a little bit more. Basically, if Ryze is still around. I'm currently trying out Winter's Breath. Winter's Breath has always been kind of a meme with like Karma Freljord, Karma Anivia, and everyone's like, oh, but the Winter's Breath value. I think it's okay. I think it's pretty solid. We get to ramp fairly quickly thanks to Winter's Touch and Wild Mysticism. And it just is very hard to interact with as well. So I'm trying out 2. I think it is a little bit better than Buried in Ice and It That Stares. 1, it's only a one card combo instead of a 2-card combo like Buried in Ice It That Stares is. I guess it is a 2-card combo. You need leveled up Karma for it. But yeah, if you don't know the deck, if you are trying to understand this deck, basically it's just your ramp, you get out your Sky Singer, and then you play a 6-mana Field of Rush. Pretty easy. Of course, we've got Deep Meditation to try and find those Field of Rushes. Rest of the deck getting buffed too is, or discounted as well, is pretty nice. And then you've got your classic Karma win con if your Field of Rush doesn't cut it. Karma, doubling up your spells, giving you random spells is just insane value. Winter's Touch when you're enlightened turns into a 1-mana draw 2 if you have Karma out. Wild Mysticism basically being a summon 2 6/6 overwhelms as well is pretty solid. Again though, I'm still working on this pile. I think I like Yi, but I've had some people ask me what I think about Anivia in this deck. I'm not sure. I haven't tried out Anivia. I will be trying it out in the future, but I would love to hear your opinion if you have tried out Anivia. Some people have told me it's really good, so I will definitely try it out in the future. Anyway, that is all 8 decks for patch 4.2.0, I believe is the patch name. Try to get a lot of different archetypes here. Using a lot of the different new or buffed spells. Hope there's something here that you guys liked. And I'd love to hear your opinion on these decks. What do you think of this patch, by the way? After playing the patch, I'm a little more favorable towards the patch. I still wish they had nerfed Ryze, though. But I'd say, like, if I were to rate this patch, I'd say... Yesterday, I said I think I said it was like a 4 out of 10. Now I'm up to a 6 out of 10. I still feel like they kind of missed some stuff in the balance changes. Maybe they think Ryze is okay as he is. I don't. In all honesty, I really wish they had killed Ryze. And I also love to hear what you guys have been playing. Tell me the kind of decks you've been playing with these new cards. You know, old decks with some of the new cards, completely new cards. And just if you like the patch or not. And if you guys just enjoyed the video in general, I'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. And as always, I will have the deck codes down in a pinned comment as well. Also, if you want to watch me play some more Legends of Runeterra, you can go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Senatin, where I stream pretty much every single day. And if you want to keep up with the Legends of Runeterra content and more, you can always go and subscribe to this channel as well. Always helps me out as well, like I always say. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye.